God created us. He created our bodies to be living sacrifices to honor him. And I just find that amazing that we have been created. But it can be very confusing, can't it, to figure out, well, what does it actually mean to be, to honor God with our bodies? There's so much information out there that can be confusing and contradictory about how we look after ourselves, how we eat well and nourish our bodies so that we can be the best that we can be in order to do all that we've been called to do. And I'm here to encourage you and share my thoughts on what it means to nourish body, mind, and spirit. I'm Claire Thomas. I'm a registered nutritional therapist and health and wellness coach based in Devon in the UK. I've been on my own journey when it comes to nutrition. I had chronic fatigue syndrome a few years ago, and I'm thankfully healed of that now. And that experience taught me the power of nutrition, of what we put on our bodies and how it impacts us. It also taught me the power of mindset and how what we think, how that impacts our body. And when I combine that together with my Christian faith, it becomes a force not to be reckoned with. And it is about how do we look after ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. Now, for me, if we look at nourishing body, for example, it's about focusing on health. How do I want to feel? Do I want to feel well, or do I want to feel not so well? And sometimes it can be hard to differentiate. There are, people like I've been in that position who have long-term conditions. But even when we have long-term health conditions, there are things that we can do to help manage our health, to help us feel the best that we can feel in those moments. So when we look at food, it's about concentrating and making choices, again, on how do I want to feel. It's recognizing and making those connections on how certain foods make you feel. The foods such as, for me, I don't eat a lot of wheat-based products. I can't anymore. They make me feel bloated, lethargic, sluggish. And I just got to a point where it's like, I don't want to feel like that anymore. For me, energy is a gift. I want to have energy and the ability to do all that God's called me to do. So I've removed them out of my diet, but I don't look at it as something I've been deprived of. I look, okay, what am I gaining by not eating that bread? I'm gaining energy. I'm gaining that not feeling bloated. I'm not feeling sluggish. I'm gaining that. That's a gift. And it's looking at, okay, what can I eat instead? So it's when I eat, it's making sure I've got that balance in my meals, because I find that if we don't eat right, especially, breakfast and lunch, if we eat foods that, come mid-morning, come afternoon, we feel sluggish, tired, we're grabbing for the cakes, grabbing for the biscuits. If we haven't got that balanced diet, we're going to eat foods because our body's like, I just need a quick source of energy. And actually that's where sugary food comes in, because it is a quick source of energy. However, in the long term, it isn't beneficial for us. So it's how do we, for the majority of time, eat a diet that means that when we do have the occasional cake or biscuit or packet of crisps, it's not going to have such a big impact on us. So what does that look like? It's about eating whole foods that are made by plants, not in a plant. So it's eating foods, in the fruit and vegetable section of the supermarket, eating meat that's been, where possible, sustainably raised. It's having your pulses, your legumes, it's herbs and spices. It's all these things that God has given us and created. It's moving away where possible from what we call ultra processed foods. So that's foods made in factories. Often we look at the back of a label and we don't know half the ingredients. And I would encourage you, if you don't recognize the ingredients, do you really want that in your body? Because think of it like fueling a car. If you put the wrong petrol in a car, it's okay for a little bit, but after a while it starts to slow down and conk out. And it's exactly the same with us. We can eat these foods, but after a while, we start to get slower. We start to conk out a little bit. So sometimes we do have to sit down and be intentional about what we're eating, but looking at it not in what am I losing, but what am I gaining? So just ask yourself that question: what do I want to gain? Do I want to gain wellness, energy, the ability to do what I want to do? Or am I happy with feeling sluggish and bloated, for example? It's a question to ask. It's that Romans 12:2, that renewal, be transformed by the renewing of our minds. When we can make those connections, we're able to see, okay, this is a benefit for me. I feel better when I eat this. And the thing when it comes to food, there's a lot of behaviors and traits and habits that we all carry from childhood, for example, or throughout our lives. Food is meant to be enjoyable. God wants us to enjoy it. But it's looking at, okay, we've still got to consider what certain foods are doing to our bodies, and actually how can I enjoy what God has created and honor him with my body. So for example, I'm a bit of a crisp fiend. This is something that I'm working on, and I'm definitely getting better. But every time I reach for crisps now, I have to ask myself, why do I want these? Am I wanting them because I'm bored, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm stressed? Now for me, I tend to navigate towards crisps when I'm stressed. And that is quite a normal thing for the body. So don't feel guilty about that. Or even if you need sugary food, again, that's quite a normal response, especially when we're under a lot of stress by the body, to want sugary, salty foods. But I just have to take a moment and go, okay, I know when I eat these crisps, I don't feel my best afterwards. They make me feel, a bit like sluggish. I've had empty calories. They don't actually do anything for my body. It's just calories that, are just extra calories that don't do anything. Whereas, if I know in those moments, okay, if I have a piece of fruit and some nuts, I know that calorie wise could possibly be on par, but I know there's lots of nutrients in those fruit, in those nuts, that are actually going to be beneficial for my body. They're going to help fuel myself. And when we continue to kind of think, okay, if I do this, I'm going to feel better, then we make better choices. Now, this isn't about all the time. We look at an 80% of the time, sort of 80-20 principle, okay? So if 80% of the time you can do this, that means 20% of the time when you have the crisps, the cake, the biscuits, etc., the white bread, that your body can cope in a different manner. So it's about doing what you can to focus on health, focus on how you want to feel, to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. And if you need support, then do reach out to individuals like myself who follow what we call functional medicine practices, which means we look at the person as a whole and we look about creating balance. So, if you're someone that does struggle, just reach out. You can find more information on my website at nourishttosoar.co.uk, or if you're based in the United States, if you go to IFM, the Institute of Functional Medicine, you can find other practitioners who follow similar principles to what I've discussed. So any questions, feel free to email me or send me a message. I'm always happy to chat.